So I'm Jaidev Sharma, Joint Director from ASSOCHAM. I welcome all the panelists for taking their valuable time to join us in this important webinar. Paint industry is one of the focus sectors for ASSOCHAM in this year, and considering the importance of this paint industry in as far as our sector is concerned, we are organizing this event. There is some issue in our moderator end, so I request Mr. Sundareshan ji for his kind address, please.
Okay, very good afternoon. Thank you, Jaidev, and I also welcome all my co-panelists. Very glad to be part of this initiative taken by ASSOCHAM to bring some focus to what the paint industry is going through. As most of you know, paint is a very large industry and a big contributor to the economy. It's a 50,000 crore industry just in terms of the size of the quantity of paint that sells. And if you were to add that it has to get applied, and the application side is another 50,000 crores. There are more than 1 lakh retailers who sell and make a living out of the trade and paints. There are 2 to 3 million applicators and contractors who provide the application of painting. And a whole lot of allied set of people associated with this industry. And it's one of the earliest industries which comes up in any economy. And it's a very key building block as to how economy shapes. So how this industry does is important, and it is an important contributing factor to how we do as an economy. And while a lot of people think of paint to look good, but it is also very important to make us all feel good, because and especially in today's context, the importance of the entire surroundings and our environment and our spaces having to be clean, having to be safe, and having to be hygienic is increasingly is becoming more important. And that sort of brings out as to how is it happening today. Certainly the entire pandemic of COVID has affected most consumer facing businesses. Paint is also one, but I just want to put across this perspective that paint for a long time has been seen as a luxury or a middle class and upper middle class kind of a consumption product, but it is increasingly becoming, and it has to be looked at as an essential part of a better living for everybody, and more so in today's context, where the relevance of how not from our personal hygiene alone, but how we make our homes, our neighborhood, and therefore our states and country that much more clean and healthy is becoming important. And therefore, it is a very, very essential part of a better living space that has to be created. And so to that extent, in the current context, while consumption is affected, how do we revive, or what all can can be done to not just revive in the shorter term, but even in the longer term, so that this industry not only makes the country look good, but also feel good. So what can we do about it? I wanted to share a few of my thoughts in this context. First, of course, it could start with paint companies, the companies in the industry itself, something which I am a part of, like that. There are very established, very renowned, and as well as upcoming companies, which essentially in today's context and also in the future can look to do two things very actively. One is in terms of how what can we do to make paint more and more affordable, and therefore how can we make it offer more value, make it more easily purchasable and affordable for as wide a population as possible. I think that is something which we need to do. And in addition to that, there is this aspect of paints having to be applied, which is where the painter or the contractor goes into the houses. And in today's context, that has gained a different color in terms of how safe and how secure is this practice, because this is done mostly by people who are not so organized. The painters and the contractors are not so organized, and they need help to improve themselves, to become professional, and to give the element of comfort for the consumers today to let people come and do the painting. So how can companies both make paint affordable as well as painting safer and comfortable for consumers? I think that is something which the industry and the companies in the industry can very well need to look at, and it has gained that much more importance. um, then what can the supporting ecosystem, the government, the local administration, and the other supporting bodies do to help revive? I think we need to raise the bar and raise the dialogue around the need for having a very, very clean environment in space. So, the need for, therefore, not just keeping the insides of the house, but the buildings, the neighborhoods, and therefore how that can go up. Because what we are facing today is a health issue. The entire pandemic is a health issue, and it's a warning signal, or it's a wake up call to say that what can we do about living in more cleaner and hygienic spaces. And if that uh, if that bar is raised, and if that is brought into focus by the government, by the local administration, by the societies, then uh, we will be able to raise the consciousness of people to automatically for maintaining and for making them not just look good but also maintaining them clean. They will need to paint, they will need to have different types of paints which not just protect their structures but also keep the environment safe for them. So I think that is something which one can uh, you know suggest and hope that right from the smaller organizations to the local administration to the government, how can they elevate the dialogue in this? Paint has also historically been considered more of a luxury good, like I said earlier as well. And if we were to look at from even in terms of a tax structure, it is still at the highest bracket of GST. Typically a regular living is talked about in the context of you need food, clothing, shelter, or roti kapra makan, as they say. But the food and clothing are all taxed much lesser. But when it comes to everything to do with about the home, it is still at high. But I think that how can it be brought down, even if temporarily, it can make then the entire segment that much more affordable, because 80% of paint which consumed is for repainting. It is like we all change our clothes very regularly, and paint is like clothing for the living space. It also needs to very regularly keep getting changed. So therefore, if it is more affordable, it will get consumed more, and the demand can go up. And every time I think the government, whether it is local, whether the state or the central governments have addressed or have optimized tax structures, I think the consumption has responded. It has only gone up. It has only multiplied. And India still does not use as much paint for the kind of population it has. The per capita level is low. It can easily double or triple. And I think the contribution to the economy in terms of tax and revenues will come. So how can paint be looked at more as probably an essential commodity like food and clothing? And therefore, how does one look at some of those enablers like tax, etc., can help? But the largest thing which is facing us, at least in the immediate times, I would say, is the consumer sentiment. The sentiment of because of the pandemic, uh, consumption is something which is affected because people are very afraid. So there is certainly a large web of fear around uh, what the pandemic is and how it might impact individually or collectively in the family. And I think sufficient time has now passed. So how can um, either right from small groups to the again going back to the local administration and the government now change a bit of the narrative to something around positive messaging to say that okay, I mean, we now have mechanisms which help early detection and early treatment. Our recovery rates are going up. So it is time to get back to normalcy. It is time to let people come to the house. People today don't even let maids and others come into the house. A lot of societies don't allow that still. So how can some of that get you know uh, called out and no the narrative changed to saying that now it is time to look at getting back to normal, let people come, start, get things done at home, make it a more safer, cleaner place, and then that will certainly help industry like paints, uh, you know, uh, bounce back, because it's not sufficient only if the shops and the markets are open. Paint has to be applied at homes and the various places, and all of them have to be open, and they have to allow people to come and do those jobs. So, what can be done to address the consumer's sentiment by giving some reinforcing messages by to overcome the fear, which I think has caught up a very large set. So those are the few thoughts I had to share here in terms of how one can look at the paint industry and reviving the demand for paints, not just in the immediate context, but fairly well into the future as well. Um, and I don't know whether Mr. Ravichandran has been able to join now, Jaydev, otherwise,
Uh, I think
I
right,
don't
sir.
think so.
So thank you, sir, Mr. Thank you, Sunil sir, for your kind address. I think Mr. Ravi is there. Uh, Ravi Chandran ji.
No, no, I don't think he's. I don't think he's there.
I don't think he's still
So,
there.
possibly,
So,
I'll just
so
take
sir,
it forward from where
right.
Hello, can you hear
Mr.
me?
Sundaresan has.
Hello.
Yeah,
I think
Children,
he's
can you hear
great,
me?
great, great.
Ravi, yeah,
We,
you're
Hello.
okay, you're okay.
Yeah, yeah.
we can hear
So
you.
first of all, my heartfelt apologies for the, delay in joining the, webinar. I had some technical issue. Because of that, I could not join through laptop. So after a lot of efforts, I'm just joining through my mobile. So I'm not able to see you, the fellow panelists, but
okay.
I was able to hear Mr. Sundaresan's presentation. I thought it was a very good, overview of the softer issues facing the industry as to how one should be reviving the demand, what as stakeholders all of us should be doing and all that. So it was an excellent presentation. Perhaps now we can move on to the next speaker, Mr. Mark Titus, Director Marketing, Nippon Paints India. Welcome,
Yeah,
Mr.
yeah. Thanks, Ravi. Good to have you with us back. Anyway, so taking it forward from where Mr. Sundaresan has left it, he has broadly covered a lot of the pertinent points which are there. Yes, paint is a huge industry, a 50,000 crore industry, and a huge contributor to the GDP. A very robust industry, because our industry is an industry which traditionally, if you go by the trend, has been growing by 1.5 times to 2 times the GDP. So we are a huge contributor to the overall GDP. We are, a huge employment provider as a sector. So it's extremely important to get the industry back on its feet and revived. One curious thing which is there about the paint industry, which is our channel as such, because our channel is a little bit more complicated than the regular FMCG channel or the regular builders channel which is there. We have several influencers who influence the purchase decision as such. So before you reach the consumer, we have dealers who are there in place. We have painters who are there in place. So I'll just briefly touch upon some of the points of how we can, play a role in improving the demand through addressing each of these stakeholders. Mr. Sundaresan has already stressed how it's become very difficult to convince, consumers to let painters back into your home. But yes, that is something which is, as industry, as organizations who support painters, it is a communication that we have to spread. So this kind of messaging has to go off, and that I've seen a lot of it. A lot of the paint companies have been doing it across their platforms, whether it is on, the television platform, or a lot of digital communication which has been going, which is, encouraging the consumers to let the painters back into their homes. Another thing is, we all, as in industry, have certain training departments. So what we have been doing is, actually we use our team, which is in our company is called the Proceed team. The Proceed team earlier used to take in-house classes. Now they are all outbound. They go and visit outlets. In the outlets, they are educating painters, what is the right way to go about it, what are the safety norms which they should follow to, reinforce faith with the consumer. So even when you go and visit a consumer house or a site, simple things like they should be wearing a mask, they should use sanitizers, try and wear gloves. These are all positive reinforcing statements which go out from the painters as such. And also, to empower the painters itself, I've seen the industry responding very well. Paint industries, almost most of the companies have launched sanitizers. When you talk about Nippon Paint, we have not only launched sanitizers, we've also gone forward. We have masks, we have gloves, and we are not going all out into distributing it in the regular channel which is there. We are ensuring that it is there across our channels, so that the painters can actually use this. We've also priced it very well so that the painters use these masks, and they get used to all of these safety norms which are there. We've also initiated some online painter, certifications which are there. So once they attend these, classes, they can download a certificate which they can show to the consumers also. So these are some small things which we've done to empower the painters, get them back on their feet. And as an industry, I've also noticed not only Nippon Paint, but several of the organizations have extended COVID insurance for their painters. So painters also, like the consumers are afraid of getting painters inside. Painters also are quite afraid, going outside, working, even though it is their livelihood. They still are afraid of the same pandemic. So we've extended, things like insurance, COVID insurance for painters to, make them feel safe as well. Now, another very important channel partner for us, a stakeholder for us, is our dealer. It's also, this pandemic, with the last 3-4 months of impact on the business, their working capital has also been severely hit. So one of the things that we need to do as an organization or as an industry is support our dealer community as well. And we've done things like extending additional credit days. And in fact, we've also got certain tie-ups which are there with channel financing institutions to, give them an additional credit line to help them through this phase. So that's something which is important specifically for dealers. And similar to painters, we've also done a lot of training programs for our dealers to ensure that they practice safe practices in their outlets as well. Consumers obviously are the most important leg. The demand has to get generated from the consumers as such. Today in the newspaper there was a article in which CII has quoted that the construction industry is starting to come back. But new construction, as Mr. Sundareshan also had quoted, is just about 20-25% of the overall painting requirements. The industry as such will kickstart only when repainting starts happening in a sustained manner, and for that the consumer demand has to come. It's important for industries, it's important for the organizations to keep their communication lines open, to keep talking to the consumer, not to stop advertising. Unfortunately, what happened is a lot of the organizations just due to the pandemic which was happening did not communicate with the consumers, and that is something which is a red flag. We need to keep communicating with the consumer. It may not be only above the line in terms of the television part of it, also through our digital mediums, through WhatsApp kind of communication which is there. It's important to stay connected with our consumers. One of the ways, one of the other things which Mr. Sundareshan also had talked about is how we can work towards something like, probably something like reducing the GST or something like that. Now we have very strong bodies, in other industry bodies, which work with government agencies to drive these kind of things. Unfortunately, the industry body for paints is not yet as strong enough for that. So it's important for organizations, for companies to come together and work with industry bodies like the IPA for driving these kind of agendas. Unfortunately, the paint industry, we can quote any number of industries which these bodies are very strong, but in the paint industry it's not the case. So I think this is one aspect, whether it is PCSC in terms of skilling, and IPA in terms of the representation of the paint companies. We need to come together, we need to work together for that, because as if there is something like a GST increase, let's say a 10% decrease in the GST, even for a 6-month period, the companies will definitely pump it back into the channel. We will give it back to the consumers, and that's where, when you start incentivizing the consumers, that's where the demand is going to really kick start again. The pandemic in one way is encouraging the paint industry also, because as we all know, so many of us are working from home, right? And as you work from home, the home environment is all that much more important today. So everybody will think of upgrading their own surroundings as well. That is something, that's where paint will play a big part, not only in terms of beautifying your surroundings, but also psychologically it works well to make you feel brighter, to make you feel better if you paint your home. Another thing which paint industries should do is promote more of their wellness products. I think almost many of the companies have got antibacterial products which are there. We are looking to launch an antiviral product also. So these kind of initiatives will again build trust of the consumers, and start getting them back into the buying behavior. Last thing, one important thing which comes to mind is in terms of where the demand is coming from. Also, a result of this entire work from home behavior, there has been a lot of reverse migration which has happened, and I'm not talking about the migrant laborers as such, but also working professionals. They've all gone back to their homes, their native places, things like that. And now we will see a huge surge of demand which is going to come from the tier 2, the tier 3 cities which are there, and we have to ensure our own supply chains are robust enough to cater to that demand, and we have to ensure that our marketing programs are localized and powerful enough to be able to tap into that demand and ensure that it is converted. I think these are some of the points I wanted to put across. I have a couple of other points, but I think we can take it at the end after we hear the other panelists. I've not talked about the back end part of it. I assume the other panelists will be able to talk about that because some part of the RM will be covered by them.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mark, for.
So over to you, Ravi.
Yeah,
I think
thank you, Mr. Mark.
Professor Khanna is next.
Yeah, Mr. Khanna. So thank you, Mr. Mark, for a very good perspective, especially from the marketing side, as to what we ought to be doing, to get the consumer back, and also to, how to, give confidence to the painters, so that they're also they will be in a position to do their job without much fear, and other regulatory aspects. So certainly, you highlighted the challenges at length. Now we can move on to Mr. Khanna's presentation. Welcome, Mr. Khanna.
Good afternoon or good evening. It's a nice
in between time, so either one.
It's a nice meeting to discuss on something which we all are feeling, that the business is down, people are not coming out to use paints, although we call it a very essential requirement. I think the issue can be taken in two different ways. The whole paint industry basically is divided into two main partitions: decorative versus industry. So I think most of the focus so far has been on the decorative industry only. But I see in the industry part, I think some work is still going on. I can tell you that I just opened our office of testing lab last month, and we are getting a lot of inquiries and a lot of work we are doing, which means that wherever essential is there, the people are trying to get the job, get the job done, and they cannot leave their chemical industry or any kind of a thing unpainted, or leave it like that, which can create even bigger problems of accidents and other kind of things. But definitely, as far as the housing and real estate is coming, most of the real estate is almost stopped. I have applied for a house in Hiranandani itself, which we are supposed to get next year. And from last 5 months, we are seeing nothing is happening. Maybe something is happening inside interiors of that, but the external work and everything is not started yet, and which is basically showing that your delivery, your possession will be delayed by another few months. Now, part of this thing are one reason which Mark mentioned, that most of the labor which was available few months ago is not available. Although today, after 4 months of corona, things have become easier. Work is going to start, but the people are not there. So that is one big thing, how to bring these people back. And the kind of situation which has occurred when these people went back to their home, they are also very sure that they don't want to end up in that kind of a situation once again. So that is one big thing which people have to look. And I find today many of the contractors who come to our lab and they ask, this is very difficult to get these people back to do it. So that is one very serious problem. But on the other hand, I have also seen a big opportunity. Today you see all educational institutes, they are closed. And I have another, on the left side of our building, we have a very big school. They are taking this opportunity to fully repaint their school. And I'm finding from last 2 months that work is going on. So I think the paint companies as well as some of their people have to also find out where the opportunity is. And you can imagine that if a school or if a educational institution which has to be painted under normal condition, there is so much of problem. But today everything is empty. So painting is very easy. Only thing is that somebody has to meet them, somebody has to give them a really some special soaps, maybe some percent less or so, and they can work into that. That is one thing. As far as I think that the things in homes, everybody is thinking, let me delay it. So the reason is very good, very important, that even if I think that I have to go and buy a new dress for me, I said, forget about this thing. From last 4 months, I have used only, half shirt and t-shirt. So where is the question of buying anything more? So in the same way, except for the point which Mr. Sundaresan told, to keep your house clean, you have to get these things. The other thing that it is essential, I must do it now, that is making a very big stumbling block for this thing. Now, for paint industry, there are two things have come together: 4 months of COVID and now another 3 months of rain, at least in Bombay, and in many other places. So this combined thing, today I am seeing that if you go outside, a lot of things are open. People are walking, people are doing work, but because of rain, nobody will think of doing painting at their homes or even outside. You cannot even say like that. So sometimes, one stumbling block is attached with another stumbling block and cause the delay to a greater extent. But on the other hand, I found that as the rain thing has started, there are other problems coming, like leakings. I can tell you with my company, which is where we are making the cool roof coatings. We have done at least 4 big businesses during this time. And although the orders were there, we were waiting to get the people. Transportation was difficult. Things were sending the paint system to the site was very difficult. So many problems were there. But unfortunately, we finished all of those things even before the unlock period came into that. So what I'm trying to say is that if something has to be done and it is required to be done, even at home also it is going on. But definitely nobody is taking an initiative to let tomorrow I go and get the things done. I will tell you, in my own home, in one of my bedroom, I got a small hole. Now the society was not allowing anybody to come inside. I said, how long I will go on seeing the dripping of water in my bedroom? So when the things started ease, the person came and we got the thing done. So all these problems, if you join together, there is one other and other problems are coming together, and this has to be. Of course, if you see as you told, that the role of paint companies is also to tell people that irrespective of all these situations, your house has to be painted, it has to be clean, and all this kind of thing. There is no drop in those advertisements in the TVs. Everything, they are still coming. But it is the initiation from the user itself which is causing a slightly a problem into that. But I think that with the second unlock, which is going to start from day after tomorrow, I think things will be in a much better way. And I think that you also raised the very important point of GST. I still think paint industry from 28 to it became 18, and for paint industry, at least for housing, 18% is still higher. So an association like Paint India and other things should come together and put onto that. But at present, if you say government will listen to that, they say already we are earning so less. GST level has already gone to 2/3 of the total value, so they will not listen to that. But in a calm situation, we have to really talk to the government and set that and suggest them, at least for the housing, it should be at least 12%, and for the industry and other thing, you may keep it 18%. So that kind of a proposal should be there, and it should be worked on to that. So I think we have to situation of wait and watch until and unless we have some very great pragmatic idea which goes through our electronic media, and somebody is just affected by that and says that, oh, whatever it's there, I have to get this thing done. display can be possible. Thank you very much. I think this is a nice opportunity to discuss both from R&D people, lab people, and the real manufacturers and promoters of the paint coating. Fine, thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor Khanna. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the presentation.
Can you open the email?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, it is okay, sir.
Yeah. So perhaps we can move to the next speaker, Dr. Ramanujam Ramanujan.
Yeah. Good afternoon and good evening to you all. So at the outset, I thank the organizing committee and also all my fellow panel members that who has given a different perspective of reviving the paint industry. I will not tell reviving, it is re-examining and redirecting the paint industry in this type of pandemic situation. And I do also congratulate on behalf of our institute and our director of completing 100 years, besides this is the centenary year of ASSOCHAM. So we congratulate the team Sharma for completing the 100 year, and at least you brought this subject into reckoning that how Indian paint industry need to think for looking forward in industry 4.0 or 5.0, whatever you tell. So I will start with Sundaresan sir's statement that today we are looking for look and feel good. So now it has to be sense good also. Then when you are going from decorative to protective, then you have to add to the functionality as well. Because all the panel member has given the market perspective, economic perspective, that how a institution that Dr. Khanna has already represented the both academia and industry. So how a academic orientation will help, and what should be the our role into this revival or re-strengthening strategy. I will try to highlight some of the things. As defined, that paint industry is the most disruptive and diffuse industry, because we cannot put any category. If you will derive category, hundreds of the things will come: decorative, protective, or you can go with surface type, then you can go with property type, and all those things. So we have to cover surface, and surface is directly linked to our pandemic, that COVID type of pandemic. Today it is a pandemic, but our paint industry has the capability and have the credential to protect almost all type of surfaces. The requirement is to relook into those aspects, because we have product, but we have not studied those aspects whatever is required. Just now, if we are adding from marketing perspective, everybody will talk antimicrobial, everybody will talk antibacterial, and now pandemic has come. Can any super hydrophobic surface, any coating you take, that will have a contact angle more than 90, because all the protective coating if you'll see, and that itself will be third part of the antibacterial in nature. So we have to relook our product portfolio, we have to reevaluate our product portfolio. So innovation is there in the product portfolio all our companies have, and two of the companies represented by two stalwarts today. So my perspective from that as a research perspective, whenever we do research, we are dealing from the industry, because we know only few products, and we go a global market survey. Sometime we will see what Sundaresan sir told, it is 50,000 crore. 2020 it will become 75,000 crore from the manufacturing side, and it will go to 1,50,000 crore. But many other things has to be looked into. One aspect, whatever Mark has talked about, that training the person who is doing the painting, that is good from the that perspective of the paint industry perspective. Why we are not focusing on customer education? Always Mark, this Sundaresan sir told that cost is a factor. Whenever paint, you do wonderful paint, JSW develop a very good paint, but cost will come into the factor. Then MSME rolls into the comes into the play. So cost should not be the criterion, because whenever we develop a paint, you have to be take consideration cost, environment, energy, application, and in a policy point of view, environment means what? One time paint industry has been tagged that it will be going to the red zone. Already our companies and our entrepreneur and our MSME had lot of eco-friendly product, but when in the policy making it was there, red tag, how to remove that red tag, that also this had to be thought into. So beside doing the applicator training, can a program should be a start for customer education? Customer should be informed and it should be educated. That will be good for revival. So महंगा रोए एक बार, सस्ता रोए बार बार, that should not come into the picture. That if we are informing, and that place educational institute roles come very important. Everybody will agree with me, in the past, if you'll show paint industry around Mumbai, one of the association was UDCT or UICT. Lot of paint professionals are there from there. If you'll come to North India, it is HBTI Kanpur. If you'll go to East India, it will be University Department Chemical Technology, then LNIT Nagpur, then IICT Hyderabad, CCRI Karaikudi, IIT Mumbai. Lot of institute are there, Tezpur University. So, but of the road in the highest business growth, these things has been looked down. That you have to re-energize this type of organization. I am doing research into the pen. Please come and join. Whatever facility you want to create, whatever training you want to create, those type of facilities are there with us. Why don't you use it? You can use CSIR as a brand. We have a very good program on Intel Core where 67 scientists involved on developing future of the material. Mark was talking about raw material. It is a raw material intensive industry. Around, if you'll read in the literature, it is 200 to 300 raw material. And in India, because in the last 10 or 12 years, we were more dependent on China having much better material than in our own yard. How to bring that? Why not we develop a productive? Anytime we discuss in the paint industry raw material, everybody will talk about TiO2, TiO2, TiO2. There is a replacement of TiO2. That permutation combination has to be brought into. Why we should not become self-dependent, self-reliant? Our Prime Minister, in the first address to the country, he was telling, no emission, no, this is a total quality and total environment he talked. And we have all the raw material. We have a tradition that all our paint industries has done lot of work. Why not re-innovate, re-educate? Because we have to grow together. There should not be competition between MSME and big company. Both are part. We have to take whole system as a paint industry, and we have raw material. We need not go. Suppose our one of the raw material go to decorative and protective. Alkyd is the Warsaw resin. We have all the manufacturing unit. How to bring all alkyd industry into 100% solventless coating? We should think how to bring all the alkyd industry into the alkyd emulsi. That type of thinking and those type of techniques are available. That type of institutes are available. So my request that to all the paint industry professional and personnel, that we have a faith on your institute, how the global has come. Today we are talking about antimicrobial coating, antifungal coating. We are talking about lot of additives. What Chinese has done, they have treated their clay. That capability we do have. So we have to explore. Earlier, our industry was materials, machine, and manpower dependent. Today, you search Google coating, you put a word coating, it will come 12 million searches will come. You have to go on refining and refining. So those type of resources, we should collect our knowledge, whatever available in India. As far as I know, in India, almost all ingredients from a low-tech paint to high-tech paint are available, and that has to be done. Second part from Mark, I want to tell that why government has initiated a skill training. So already you are skilling the painter. Other things, marketing professional or any, We can provide more input. Everybody will come in advertisement cross-linking, but all of you know by your heart that all your paint are cross-linking. If you are going all alkyd paint, all will be cured through cross-linking only. Why not to use education for that purpose? So, match the specification where we lack. We are not drawing a specification for all the products as per the tender. Whatever is the product requirement, we do. So we have to educate into that aspect, how to draw education. I was working in Toyota Group. One very good thing used to come, how a researcher can develop a research product. In that, they will give a customer feedback in car, whatever you want, whatever you don't like. So why we should not bring whatever sir told dealer with the all our the link are there. So what they are lacking, what problem they are facing, and please send it to us. We can categorize for you that what should be the specification, what they are looking for, why their paint is fading. So those type of insight has to be brought into the existence, and we are in a very good track. We have all the ingredient. This pandemic has given us opportunity more. Challenges are less. We have to reunite, reignite, and industry, academia, and government institution. Today, next panelist is Dharmender sir. Now you see, they have also understood the realization of the paint. So they are establishing lot of center for excellence in the country. And this year they have added coating into that also, in a separate aspect of coating. So everybody understood the importance, why we should not work together. And on behalf of our director and our institute, we do invite all of you that Mark sir, Sundaresan sir, please visit us. We have all the facilities for you. We have all the ingredients for you, and we are ready to serve you. Even we can serve after this pandemic goes. I am ready to go to the customer as well, how to educate them, how to paint them. So these are the points what I wanted. Economics point already my learned panelist has told. So academic point of view, whatever support is required, that we are going to provide you. Tomorrow we are in the knowledge intensive industry, and lot of knowledge are available. We have to integrate those available knowledge for the development of fund. Then lot of possibility is there becoming Atmanirbhar Bharat, stand up India, start up India. Whatever is the our government mission, everything can be fulfilled through this, and paint industry can be in a role model into that. And we have to work in unison, whether it is MSME, whether it is a big company. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ramanujam Ramanujan, for giving an excellent perspective from research side. Perhaps now we can move on to Mr. Dharmendra Kumar Madan to get government perspective on reviving the demand for the sector.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. From ASSOCHAM, I feel very thankful to ASSOCHAM for inviting me on this panel of paint industry. It's
Sound.
Can't hear you, sir.
No sound.
Mr. Madan, we can't hear you.
Yes, he has actually moved it.
And then utilize your capacities for the consumers. There is a challenging times. You must be having some difficulties, but every difficulty we pass have a phase, and then it creates a new opportunity. So I see some optimistic manufacturers here who are looking for further opportunity to accept the challenges and then move on. From my side, I would like to fully agree with the very views of Dr. Ramanuja was saying that we should make more safer and quality chemicals, and there is a knowledge base available with IICT and many more academic institutes in the country. and there is a need to that academy and industry to collaborate and move ahead. As far as I see, this is still in 50,000 crore. I understand paint industry. There is a scope to improve, to be move further, and you can be a bigger industry. I don't know why you are looking for reviving demand in the country only. Look for demand outside also. Export. It's a chemical industry, is a big industry in India. You have a lot of opportunity to export. So look for that also in that aspect also. And your some issues I can understand government side can be related with GST or skilling or reskilling requirement. I think government is very open nowadays and inviting all your suggestions. So at appropriately, if these forums suggestions are given, I think it will be very much taken care by the government. And I like to see that this industry grows, can be bigger, much bigger than what it is now. And rest, I don't have much more to say except that your some issues was there on regarding challenges. You said local customer related, that you have to focus. Customer demands will be changing, preferences will be changing from time to time, and now is this time you must innovatively provide a solution to them, and that way only you can revive the demand and boost your industry. That's all. Much more, nothing much more to add. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Madan, for giving your perspective. So overall, we had 5 good presentations, and I thought we came up with a good set of issues that the industry should be working on to revive demand. Most of the suggestions seem to be practical. While the mood is somber, I'm sure with the collective efforts of the industry and other stakeholders, better days are ahead for the industry. Let us look forward to better days for the industry. I'm sure, with the collective efforts and possibly revival in the consumer sentiments, we will be able to see better demand for the industry. So with those words, I'd like to conclude this webinar, and also I'd like to thank ASSOCHAM for organizing this webinar. I found that the participants, I hope the participants find this webinar to be useful. If there are any queries, perhaps they can write to ASSOCHAM. So we could address that separately. So overall, I thought it was very well organized, and thank you so much for the panelists for taking time out to attend this webinar. I know all of you are busy professionals. Despite your commitments, if you have found time to address the audience, that's a great great gesture. And I also like to thank the participants for attending this webinar. So thank you so much for everyone.
Thank you so much.
Are you taking some paper or news in your newsletter?
Newsletter, yeah, I think we have ASSOCHAM as a newsletter. I think they look at various industry related issues. Perhaps there could be a scope for bringing out the issues facing the paint industry in one of the forthcoming issues.
I think that should be good. People will know it, and then there will be a more follow up on that.
Yeah, certainly. I think in the past also, I think the association has collated the issues, especially challenges faced by the industry, and they have taken up the matter with the respective departments. So if there are specific suggestions, I'm sure the association will be too happy to take up the issues with the department and see what they can do to address the issues of the industry.
If you are looking for in future any kind of training programs or specific lectures on certain areas, we can organize it through the forum, and it can be useful.
Yeah, sure, certainly. We'll keep that in mind. With experts like you, I'm sure those kind of programs will be of help to the audience. and we will try to see if we can organize such programs in future.
Thanks.
Fine, sir. Thank you, one and all.
Right.
Thank you
so much. Bye.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
ओके खन्ना सर, फोन करूंगा मैं.
Okay, fine.
बाय धर्मेंद्र सर, बाय.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.